like we can do accent swap here, like literally.
Well, Muna can do a really good British accent. We have to save that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, save this for the show. Let me dial you guys in. Okay, so guys, our guests have arrived and I'm super excited for the show today. We are going to have the founders of Young East African Girl podcast, and amazing, wonderful, lovely women, and I'm gonna just let them introduce themselves to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having us today.
Muna, do you want to go first?
Yes, I'm just so excited to be chatting with you. Just like so impressed with the work you're doing. My name is Muna, and I am a filmmaker, I am a writer, and I do a little bit of stand-up. And I'm one half of Young East African Girl, which it's just like a podcast and a space for us to talk about like culture and entertainment and like issues of interest within the diaspora.
Okay, and I'm Kaha. I'm the other half of the podcast. My job is not as cool as Muna. She's a filmmaker. I'm a graduate student, and I just really spend a lot of time on the internet and have a lot of things to talk about. So that's why we started this podcast together. We're actually both in Toronto. We were just telling you that it's super early here. It's 7 in the morning.
Awesome.
Breaking news, so thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here, guys. Amazing. Imagine 7 a.m. in the morning. You guys have so much energy already. I love it.
We had our coffee.
We've had our coffee. I listened to a little bit of like Aretha Franklin's version of Young, Gifted, and Black.
Oh, what is that about, actually? I've never heard of it.
It's a great song. It's just like I came out around the civil rights movement. Aretha Franklin sang a version of it, and Nina Simone did as well. And it's just kind of highlighting, I think it can maybe be connected to a play as well, but it was just highlighting the idea that like the next generation of young Black people are like young, gifted, and Black, and we have to like give them space and support them. So it's just like a positive affirmation. And then I also listened to Aretha Franklin, Chain.
Ooh.
Like if there was like any like anxiousness or nerves in any conversation, I was just trying to like throw that off to come with positive energy.
I love it. You did the work before you came. I love it.
And I was just, because I was like, we're talking about self-care. And so I was like, whatever like non-self-care parts of me, I was like, they're gone.
Boom. And straight up in IG Live, we've got somebody asking us how we are. So King Bonface is asking, how are you? How are you two?
I'm doing okay. I think I don't know what's going on. I think are you in London, right?
Yeah, actually we came out of lockdown on Thursday, so that was nice.
Freedom!
I know.
But in Toronto, we are in a lockdown. I think we're about 2 weeks in. So we just have to like really edit our lifestyles. It's been interesting to be back home. I would say when you say how are you nowadays, it's like a kind of loaded question.
Yeah.
During the circumstances, I do have a lot of work to do for school. I have a big research proposal to do. But other than that, like I've just been, just waiting for the end of the year, I guess. What about you, Muna?
I think that there's this feeling that the end of the year, like on like New Year's Eve, somehow the pandemic will be gone.
Yeah, right? Like it's a reset button or something.
Which is likely not going to happen, but the possibility of that is kind of nice. So I actually was talking to a friend yesterday about how important it is at this time of year to kind of do your year of year, like to just look at the ways that you've like taken care of yourself and the ways that you have achieved some of the goals that you want, even if that goal is about just your wellness. So I haven't done it yet, but I was like, that's such a good idea to do that end of the year. I'm doing well. Like I sometimes get a little anxious, and that's something I have to kind of manage, that anxious energy. And I have been kind of, trying different things like lockdown has definitely helped in terms of like taking long walks, and like I have more time to meditate in the morning.
Lovely.
There in a new way. So I think that anxious energy is always something I'm managing, and like it flares up, it goes away. But today I am feeling good, and I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you.
Yes, this is amazing, and you're getting lots and lots of hearts on IG. People are liking what you're saying. And somebody BB on the beat goes, I hope people stop being so scared of COVID.
Yeah.
But I mean, girl, what we gonna do? Like, COVID is, I think we were talking about this the other day as well. It's like, it's not the actual pandemic or the actual like disease that people are scared of. It's the uncertainty.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to, who was I listening to? I can't remember. Oh, yes. Rhonda, I forgot her last name. You know the woman that wrote The Secret? Rhonda, I can't remember the last name. And she was talking about, you know, COVID. And obviously she talks a lot about energies and stuff. I'm really big on energies and stuff. So she was talking about energies, and she was saying most people, the only reason why COVID came the way it came is because most people are fearful. But COVID didn't bring the fear. The fear was already there. It just ignited something that was in people already. So obviously, she was saying, because there's certain people that move around and they're fine, and you know, life moves on, they're being productive, they're making their projects, they're accelerating, and there's other people that are stuck in fear and like isolating themselves and chipping away like even human contacts and everything. And that is it, is the fear. It's like literally, it just goes to show self-care is important, because the state that you are at means whatever is thrown at you, that's how you'll be able to cope with it. So COVID was thrown at us, and most people, because they were in fear, they kind of took on that fear. And those that weren't in fear, that had something solid or a foundation that they're working on, they weren't affected as much.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have a strong foundation, it's basically like it's coping skills, right? So if your coping skills are strong, if you're like a resilient person, and I think that's where self-care comes into, because I think right now it's also been, we talk about it a lot on our podcast, but we live in a capitalistic society where like that concept of self-care has been co-opted by companies to sell us things.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like buying candles, buying buying cream. It's really about like, what are the things that you have in place that when you are, and it's actually a routine of things that you do every day. It's not just something you do when something bad happens to you as well. But what are the things that you have in place that are coping strategies for you to be able to make sure that you're okay while you're doing all the other things you have to do?
So since we're talking even about self-care, I'm going to open up a bit. So me, usually I meditate, and at my best point, or let's say like my most productive point in life, I'm not saying I'm not productive, but sometimes I feel like I'm not as productive as I was during that time period where I was meditating every single day and doing like the extra yogas and all of this, and it was like a consistent thing, and it was beautiful. And then life happened, and meditation every day wasn't feasible. And then it was like, okay, then I started beating myself up about it for a while. And then I realized actually life has seasons. You might have that season and it's okay, you are on your season. And then you have off seasons where you meditate 3 times a week and not every day, you know, and that's okay. So how do you guys cope with that? You know, when you have something in place that works for you, you see yourself working at 150%, and then you don't do it anymore.
I actually was trying to like understand in the last little while like what it means to have like compassion for myself, and like it's very easy to have like compassion for our friends when they are going through like a challenging time where they're not at 100%. But I think I just realized this year with the pandemic that like, because of course anything that like you have before flares up in a new way. We were just talking about like everybody being afraid. I think that I realized that like when I'm not working at 100%, it just means I need to rest. So like if I'm not doing like all the meditation, all the work I want to do, if I just give myself the time to rest, I'm just not at 100% right now, then that rest allows me to work and to be more effective in the future. So it's like in the past, I've consistently expected when I'm not able to put in 100% energy in things to still function at that level. And it's just not, it's not a kind expectation of myself. So trying to keep that in mind. And also, like, you do all the meditation in that other time so that it ideally helps you for the moments where you can't do it as much.
That is powerful. And I think BB on the B said two things. He said 99% of people are asymptomatic. And he also says 15 minutes meditation is always possible. Pre-sleep meditation is always a good one. So
in my program, and I was so skeptical of it. I was like, this is really self-indulgent. What are we doing here? But it's actually like she was telling us basically people think that they only need it when they're going through bad times. And it's actually the times when you're getting busy and you're not making time for it, is the time that you need it. And another principle of it as well is that everything's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I was doing it perfectly before, I'm not doing it perfectly now. Anything that you're doing is fine. There's not going to be, I remember we were doing, she gave us like homework, and I remember when we had to do like journals, and I was like, in my journal, I wrote something like, my neighbor keeps like dancing and jumping and making all this noise every time I'm trying to meditate. And she was like, yeah, that's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have a perfect setting with like candles and music every time you do that.
It's true. And then sometimes you beat yourself up about it. And I think the most important thing is, as BB on the beat was saying, 15 minutes is right. But I study pranic healing. So with pranic healing, they have this beautiful meditation called twin heart meditation, where literally it works on all your chakras, aligns yourself, and keeps yourself balanced and cleansed. And if you do that, even the school recommends that you do it once a day. And the more you do it, you actually get rid of ailments such as anxiety, depression, like things like this, things that generally we carry as excess emotions. And I know that it worked because I used it and it worked. And then obviously now that I'm not doing it, I'm like, and I think it's very important, like you were saying, that we were stacking up the meditations for when we're not doing them. And
it's like sometimes we can't do all that stuff, right? And I think that's okay.
Yeah, life is not perfect.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it was Muna that said when we need to do it, or when we find that we don't need to do it, is when we should do it. And yeah, that's when you should do it. Let's cut. Sorry. But it's true, because there was this post that was like, meditate 20 minutes a day, and if you don't have the time, meditate 60 minutes. And obviously it doesn't make sense logically. You're thinking, if I don't have the time, why am I going to meditate more if I don't have the time? But it's the same principle that you were just saying.
Yeah, and I do like I jump on a mindful meditation on Mondays that like a friend of mine does on Instagram, and she says like, even if you midday, if you just do a minute, like everyone has a minute, like a minute of deep breathing, a minute of like wherever you're at, just like taking a second, like that helps too. So like you don't always need a lot of time to meditate, but what I found with like my busy mind is, when I meditate, it's like all the stuff from the day before, the things I was worried about, the things that I like thought I did wrong, all those kind of things kind of come up, and you can just acknowledge them and they can fall away. And sometimes with the meditation, I'm not necessarily getting a clear mind. I'm just kind of like allowing my brain to release all of those excess thoughts from the day before, so that I can like accept this new day. And it doesn't always happen, but I know that when I meditate, it's just so much better for my brain.
Yes. And I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Kaha said that when she feels like she's too busy, she knows she just needs to rest. Oh, yes, you guys are merging it all. So, yeah.
Who said what? So well done, Kaha. Actually, somebody on our practice was like, "You must disagree more often." I was like, "Kaha, we need opposing views."
And our voices start to sound the same.
Yeah, I was like, we need to argue. We need deeply opposing views. I was like, we need to bring.
No, I mean, if you guys are in unison and two peas in a pod, then it's fine, you know. Like, the person that comes on can be the opposing counsel, you know.
But I also wanted to say, just around the pandemic, one of the things that I thought, this is Muna, that was really interesting is that a lot of our countries, a lot of like our nation states also like dealt with it from a place of fear. So there was this idea that if you closed off your border, which is what people did in like World War II, and like during the wars, you closed off your border or something happened and you went inwards, that it would be enough to stop the pandemic. But it's like we're all connected in a different way, and our approach to like how we're dealing with one another during like a viral pandemic is different. So we also like have to, I think we're deciding as people if we want to be in agreement with the old ways that like our countries, like with like some of the thinking and framework around like fear of others, if we want to keep that going, or if we want to like shift. And the racial pandemic is a part of that. Like if we want to shift how we experience each other, how we experience nature, and like what we're really afraid of.
Exactly, precisely. And I think there's 2 points. So BB on the beat goes, he said, I am a good devil's advocate. So I'm assuming he's going to play the devil's advocate here today. And then when you said about, you know, closing off the borders and going inwards, I think, yes, you're completely right. It's like segregating people. But at the same time, I like the fact that he said going inwards, because I feel like a lot of people have gone inwards, and for example, that's why a lot of people are not standing up to the government as well and saying actually gyms shouldn't be closed, it's part of mental health. Masks, are they really as effective as they say they are? Vaccine, it shouldn't be mandatory. All of this, so people are actually rising up and are seeing the rights and are actually fighting for it. So, and I only feel like that is possible because they had to sit down and kind of reflect and be by themselves. A lot of people were not self-isolating, but kind of self-isolating because they live by themselves and they had to stay in their home. So what do you essentially do in the end once you run out of entertainment? You have to sit there, gather your thoughts, go through your emotion, learn to know yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's really like people really have to sit there, and what usually keeps us very busy, myself as well, like my day is constantly filled with distractions. I realize that like if I'm not doing work for school, I'm on the internet, I'm talking to people, I'm filling my time with activities, so like going out to dinner with my friends or going to do this, going to do that. What it really did for me was it was a time to go inward because you have a choice. I feel like people that are spiritual or on some kind of spiritual journey, they are going inwards by choice for themselves. And so what happened was like, as we were told to like stay in our houses, people who didn't necessarily want to or not ready to were kind of forced to do things that.
Yeah, precisely.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also as Black people, we do often, like, we have a complicated history with like the medical system. So I think that like, and also when it comes to pandemic, we're disproportionately impacted in a lot of the first world countries, not as much in Africa.
Yeah, we were just
Africa.
We were just talking about that on the last podcast, where it's like people were really doubting Africa's ability to cope with this, and it just seems like they're not being as impacted as Western countries. But it's also because they have infrastructure to deal with like different kinds of illnesses that have come up, and they have lots of community workers.
Yeah.
It was on the 𝗪𝗪 Noah show.
But what do you think about Tanzania? He didn't actually the president, Magufuli, was like, no, we're not going into lockdown, people are going to work, you know. And like,